Hi there, it's Dave Bonshor. I'm here to talk about the Tamlyn Xtreme blocks. First block we're going to talk about is the split mount, and this is a block that you'll use when you're mounting a hose bib or other pipes that come out of the wall. So when you get the block, it's going to look like this, and what you're going to do, the first thing you're going to do is drill a hole in the face of the block the size of the pipe. In this case it's a 7/8 inch hole that the hose bib has in the back. So I've drilled that right in the center of the split line. Hopefully you can see that. I drilled that 7/8 inch hole before I've taken the block apart. So what I'm going to do now is take the block apart. It has this retaining screw in the bottom of the block that I'm going to back off. So I've backed out the screw, and I'm going to separate the block like so. And now I'm going to put this portion, I'm just going to dry fit it to start. So I've taken the screw out, I'm going to break it apart, and I'm going to fit it over top of the fixture. So that fits nice and snug. So now that we've fitted the block and we're sure that it's fitting nice and snug around the pipe, I'm going to mark the perimeter of the block so that I can integrate the top flange of the block into the WRB. Make sure it's nice and level across, and we're going to go like this. Now we're going to take the block off. So now we're going to measure down. We're going to measure down from the top of the block, or that corresponding line, about 1 inch, and put another line. So now I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to slice the WRB on that line, which is 1 inch down from the top of the block. And the reason that we want to come down only halfway or so to where the siding is actually going to fit is that we want to leave room, because we're going to be putting some flashing tape on here in a moment, and we want to be able to adhere the WRB to the block itself. And we're going to leave about a ½ inch or so in order to fasten that tape. Okay, so we fitted our block. We made a mark around the perimeter of the block. We made our 1 inch line down below the top of the block. And now I'm going to make a slice along that mark, that 1 inch down mark. And the reason that we're going to do that is it's going to allow us to slide the block up underneath so that the WRB is overlapping the top of our block. So now I'm going to make a slice there. And now we're gonna dry fit the installation one more time. That looks great. And we've got our overlap here, a mechanical overlap. We're also going to tape this to give us another layer of protection. Okay, so now we've dry fitted our block, and we're ready to make the final installation of the block. So we're going to take it out of here. And what we're going to do next is we're going to take a caulking gun, and we're going to, because this hole is going to fit tightly around that pipe that's coming out of the wall, we're going to run a good bead of glue or a good bead of caulking around there so that when we set that down to the pipe, it makes another level of sealing. So I'm just going to go like this. I'm going to run a big heavy bead of caulking around here. It really doesn't matter if this slops out, because we can just wipe it off. With that caulking now stuck to the back side, I'm going to fit it in again. So now I'm setting the caulking, that caulked hole around the pipe. I'm going to pull my paper out to make sure that it overlaps. So now we've got, the caulking looks good. I can see that there's a good amount around the hole there. Now, for the second piece, the bottom piece, I'm going to run another bead of caulking along the top edge here and around the hole. And I'm also going to run a bead down these two channels that are in the back side of the bottom half of the piece. Now this caulking is a bit redundant because the block has a channel built into it. You can see, well, you'll see when you look at the block close up. This is just going to give us another level of sealing. So now I've got a big fat bead of caulking there and there. I'm going to shove this back up there and let that caulking all kind of seal together. I'm going to push that in. I can see that the caulking is squeezed out around my hole, which is good. I'm going to shove this back in place. And now that's a really nicely sealed job. So the block is basically in place now. I'm going to put the retaining screw back into the bottom of the block, even though we've got caulking that's holding it into place. We're going to have another layer of attachment, I guess. And so I'm going to shove this retaining screw back in. And now I'm going to level this thing. So I put my retaining screw back into the bottom of the block. It's all caulked back together. I've leveled it. And now I'm going to attach it to the wall. I like to use a screw, but you can use a roofing nail, that's not a problem. I like to use a pan head screw, but again, you can use whatever you want really. But 1 inch size. For a block this size, we want to use 4 number 8 screws. Next thing we're going to do, it's held in place, it's all solid, really. That block is now installed. We're going to put some flashing tape on as just an added precaution, I guess. We're going to put a piece up each side, like so, and then we're going to put a piece across the top that's gonna keep this paper from fluttering open to the point where we might get water blown up in behind it. We'll put the sides on first. And now that top piece. And you can see here I've left room so that this tape is going to attach essentially the paper to the block. Now that's sticking well, but you should really at this point get a roller. It says roll on here for a reason, and roll that around so that it's nicely adhered to the paper. So that's basically it for the installation of the block. We're going to put the siding on now, and of course we're going to make sure that we underlap. This block is built with a bottom overlap so that it's shingling over the siding below it. And we'll show you that in just a couple of minutes here. So at this point, the installation would be the same whether you're using lap siding, fiber cement. In this case, the rest of the installation is going to show smart lap, but at this point, it's the same whether you're using stucco or any kind of exterior finish. If you're using panel products, what you're going to do at this point is cut a hole in the panel. This is just standing in for a piece of panel. That's the same width as this, which is 5.5 inches. 5.5 by, now you're going to measure not from the very bottom of the piece, of course, because you want to retain the overlap. You're going to measure from there to the top of this standing up end down, and that's 7.5 inches. So 5.5 by 7.5, and you're just going to fit it over top, slide that in there, and that's it. You're all done. So it's all nicely fitted. This is overlapping, the panel is overlapping the block, and the block at the top, and the block is overlapping the panel at the bottom. So we have our shingle fashion installation. If you're using stucco, you should be putting a stucco stop along the top between the two end dams, slightly spaced off the top of the block, so that that stucco is not soaking, wicking upward. And you don't need to put a stucco stop on the bottom of the sides, so you can just go right up to those edges. So that's it. What we're going to do next is apply the smart lap.